Hey everybody, welcome back to an all-new episode of 10 to Life with me, Annie Elise. Are you ready to get into some true crime? Because I'm ready to get into some true crime with you. Get your comfy socks on, get comfortable. If you're cleaning, get your rubber gloves snapped on because you're going to be with me for a minute today, and it's kind of a roller coaster of a case. I want you guys to imagine a young couple who seems absolutely perfect. I mean, the epitome of love and success. They're intelligent, they're physically fit, they have adoring children, they have these thriving careers. It's like they're almost from one of those like cheesy Hallmark movies, especially one like during Christmas, the super cheesy movies. So much so that in fact their friends have a nickname for them. Everybody calls them the Hollywood couple. But what all of these friends don't know is that the couple only looked happy and they only looked perfect from the outside. We all know that things aren't always what they seem. And some people go to pretty extreme lengths to cover up their real problems. And as for the couple in today's case, disaster eventually struck and things came crashing down in 2016. So guys, let's get right into it. All right, so all my coffee drinkers out there, do you know what is better than coffee? Coffee with a cause. Criminal Coffee was created by YouTuber Stephanie Harlow and police detective Derek Levasseur. Stephanie and Derek also host the podcast Crime Weekly, and after covering so many cases and learning that in some instances the cases aren't fully investigated due to the lack of funding, they decided to do something about it, and that's where Criminal Coffee comes in. Now, you probably already know this, but when you buy coffee from the store, it might have been a month or two before that coffee even ended up on the shelf. But at Criminal Coffee, once the beans arrive, they are roasted, nitrogen sealed, and shipped right to your doorstep. So it ensures the best tasting, freshest coffee possible. They offer light roast, medium roast, dark roast, and decaf in-ground, whole bean, also K-cups. So whatever you like, they totally have you covered. And as a bonus, if you enjoy true crime, which I know all of you guys do because this is where you're watching it, you are going to love, love, love the design of their bags and their boxes because they feature characters from what they call the Criminal Coffee universe. All you have to do is scan the QR code on the bag or the box and you'll see the latest developments and which characters are solving crimes, which ones are committing them, everything. Now, the most important thing is that a portion of the profits of every single bag or box goes directly to solving cold cases utilizing the latest technology in DNA testing. And get this, they have already raised over $15,000 and they were able to solve the first case that they funded, which happened to be a Jane Doe case that actually had an interesting twist. For over 50 years, investigators thought that the victim was a woman. Well, then Criminal Coffee got involved. They funded the DNA testing, and it turned out that the victim was actually a man. And not only were they able to figure out who the victim was, they also found his living relatives. So now they have the answers that they have been seeking for all of these years. So if you guys want delicious, high-end coffee delivered right to your door, head over to my friends at criminalcoffeeco.com and use my code 10TL for 10% off your order. Once again, that is criminalcoffeeco.com, code 10TL for 10% off. So let's drink some coffee and let's solve some crime. Elana Fric grew up in the Windsor area of Ontario. She was petite with a heart-shaped face and blonde hair. She was a first-generation American. Her parents had moved there from Croatia before she was born. They moved out of Croatia due to political issues in the country, and they picked Windsor specifically because of the area's auto industry. See, both Elana's parents worked in it. And Windsor was just a short drive away from Detroit, Michigan. And we all know that Detroit is basically the car capital of the United States, right? But Elana seemed destined for a different kind of life, other than the one you picture when you think of car factories and assembly lines. She loved to read, and she did really, really well in school. Every day when Elana's parents got home from their blue-collar jobs, she saw how tired and how broken down they were, and she knew that she wanted something different. That wasn't shaming anything that they did or that line of work, she just wanted something different for herself. This was even clearer to her after she had picked up a summer job at one of those factories one year. She was so tired at the end of each day, and from that point on, Elana was very focused on making a better life for herself. One time, at the end of a trip to Croatia, Elana and her family were boarding a plane to fly back home. And during that flight, Elana got up out of her seat for whatever reason, and then she went to go sit in an empty chair in first class. She was told to go back to her real seat, of course, which is when she told her parents that when she got older, she would always fly first class. Now, I don't want to make it sound like Elana thought she was too good for her blue-collar roots. It was the opposite, really. She respected her parents so much. I mean, she was impressed that they were able to keep pushing themselves day in and out. She just didn't think that she was cut out to do the same kind of job for her whole adult life, the same way they had done it. So she made a promise to herself to go to a good college, and she was going to become a doctor. And after she made that promise to herself, I mean, she was the definition, the epitome of an overachiever in high school. Not just in terms of her homework and class projects, but Elana was also an accomplished cross-country runner. She joined a traditional Croatian dancing group, she worked in the cornfields during the summer, and she had near-perfect grades. She was so confident that she was going to achieve all of her dreams. So much so that she even wrote a poem that included the line, "I am the captain of my ship." Which, yes, it sounds great, of course, but appearances, we know they can be deceiving. I think a lot of the time when you see somebody who is that dedicated to winning all the time, it's usually because they think that they have to overcompensate for something. So in that same poem from before, Elana wrote another line that said, "My reflection stares into my eyes, a useless girl whom I despise." So while everyone who knew Elana thought that she was just this super amazing person, this gorgeous person, so talented, so smart, all of these things, she had a really hard time seeing anything amazing about herself. She held herself to such high standards, and even when she met them, she worried that it wasn't enough. She was constantly second-guessing if she was really doing good enough in terms of grades, extracurricular activities, and also even her love life. See, when she was in high school, Elana started dating a classmate named Matthew Renaud. They stayed together for 10 years, and during that time, their families got super close with one another. After graduation, Elana and Matthew went to the same college, the University of Windsor, and when Elana got accepted to medical school at the University of Ottawa, which was about an 8-hour drive away from Windsor, she and Matthew kept dating long distance. They even got engaged for a little bit. But Elana realized that she wasn't ready to settle down with Matthew. Not yet. So first, she called off the engagement and said that they could still keep dating. But then, a little while later, she ended the relationship completely. She was starting to realize that she was now growing it up as a person, and her life was going in a different direction from Matthew's. It just didn't make sense to stay with him anymore. I mean, even though he was a fantastic boyfriend in high school and in college, that didn't mean that he was the right person for her forever. And it didn't take her long to catch somebody's eye. She was still in med school, but she was also doing some training at Ottawa Hospital. So one day in 2003, while Elana was playing pool in one of the hospital break rooms, a resident doctor named Mohammad Shamji asked one of the nurses who Elana was. They ended up talking, they played a few games of pool, and Mohammad asked Elana out on a date. Now, Mohammad was a little bit awkward and also a little bit shy, and he hadn't made very many new friends since he had just graduated recently from medical school. But still, Elana was kind of smitten, so she said yes. They went out, they had drinks together, and Elana thought that they were having a great time. She liked that Mohammad was incredibly smart, plus he was a distance runner, he was a high achiever, just like Elana. He graduated from Yale in 1999 with a degree in organic chemistry, and he had also gone to Queen's Medical School and graduated in 2003. So basically, Mohammad and Elana had a lot in common, even though they came from very different backgrounds. While Elana grew up in a blue-collar immigrant household, Mohammad's father was a very successful and very well-respected doctor, and Mohammad wanted to follow in his footsteps. So Elana was so ready to learn everything about him and see where things could go. However, at the end of the date, Mohammad asked Elana if he could set her up with one of his friends. So Elana was really confused by this. She started mentally replaying the date in her head over and over again, trying to figure out if maybe she said something wrong, because it really seemed like they were hitting it off. But the truth was, the date, it did go great. It was fantastic. But Mohammad was just so awkward, so much so that he just jumped straight into the assumption that Elana wasn't even interested in him. He had interpreted her interest all wrong. It was a very uncomfortable breakdown in communication, but the good news was they figured out what went wrong after a very quick conversation, and Elana and Mohammad both confirmed that they were into each other. So they kept dating, and then eventually they made things official. The more that Elana hung out with Mohammad, the more obsessed with him she became. But Mohammad had some really weird feelings about Elana. Sometimes it seemed more like he didn't care much about her as a person, as much as he was just glad that somebody liked him. Like, all that mattered was that he had a girlfriend, but that he didn't care who that girlfriend was. In fact, one time Elana said something to him about how she felt like she wasn't worthy of him. And instead of reassuring her, Mohammad was just like, yeah, you're right. I mean, what? Jump scare? What? Elana's friends didn't understand why she was wasting her time with a guy who clearly didn't care about her or respect her. I mean, she was so smart, she was driven, she was beautiful. She could meet anybody new, just like that. And Mohammad didn't have a lot to offer her. Yeah, he was smart, but he didn't have a whole lot else going on for him. He was weird, awkward, and he never took the time to even get to know Elana's friends. Mohammad's friends even noticed that he didn't seem to like Elana very much. He barely gave her any attention. But he did control everything that she did. What she wore, where she went, who she went with, and he expected Elana to be the perfect girlfriend. And Elana was, or she tried to be. She praised Mohammad constantly, and even though she was only a resident doctor and not making very much money, she gave Mohammad very expensive gifts like golf clubs, and it was like she worshipped the ground that he walked on. And worst of all, Mohammad, he was cheating on her. Through their whole relationship, he was seeing another woman who he had gone to medical school with. When Elana found out, she broke up with him, but Mohammad apologized over and over again. He just continued to beg Elana to take him back, until she finally gave in and said that he could have another chance. But afterward, Mohammad kept dating the other woman, so Elana dumped him again, and Mohammad begged Elana to get back together with him, again, so she took him back. Again, you're seeing the pattern. And this was all during the first year of their relationship, so clearly the relationship was not going great. When Elana graduated in 2003, Mohammad didn't even attend the ceremony. He told Elana that he was sick, but then later she found out that he was actually fine. While she was accepting her diploma, he was out with a bunch of his friends. And even after all of that, Elana still stayed with him. That next spring in 2004, Elana brought Mohammad home on Easter weekend so that he could meet her parents. And right off of the bat, her mom and dad did not like him at all. They said that he was weird, standoffish, antisocial. While everyone was talking, watching TV, playing board games, or doing whatever, he refused to join. Elana's parents couldn't understand what it was she saw in him. One morning, while she and Mohammad were still over at the house, Elana's mom, Anna, heard some concerning noises coming from Elana's room. She went in to make sure that everything was okay, and she found Elana crying with Mohammad standing over her. Elana made some excuse for the crying, like she had barely gotten any sleep the night before and she was just feeling a little bit emotional, but her mom thought that the story didn't make much sense. But she also didn't think that anything serious had been going on. She figured that Elana and Mohammad maybe just had a little argument, nothing worth worrying about, and so she dropped it. And then around that same time, Elana realized that she was pregnant. Now, Mohammad was terrified. His parents were very strict, very religious, very strict Muslims. They did not believe in having sex before marriage, let alone having a baby before marriage. So the couple decided that the best decision for them was to get married. So they ended up having 2 wedding ceremonies, one Muslim and one Christian. Their first wedding was in September of 2004, at which point Elana was 5 months pregnant. Now, apparently, the wedding was really awkward, guys. The families didn't really mingle. They didn't try to get to know one another. Plus, Elana and Mohammad didn't serve any alcohol, so some guests started drinking in the parking lot outside the venue. I mean, things got rowdy, and it was just overall a very bizarre night. Their second wedding was in a Catholic church, specifically the same church where Elana had been baptized and had her first communion. She'd gone there her whole life. She knew that a lot of churches have rules that couples need to go to pre-marriage counseling before their wedding, and her church was one of those that required it. Well, big surprise, Mohammad didn't want to go to marriage counseling, not at all, and he fought with Elana about it. Now, I'm not sure what he expected her to do, because a rule is a rule. She couldn't force the church to give them a wedding without it. Mohammad even tried to convince one of their mutual friends to pretend it to be him and go in his place. But the friend was like, no way, bro. That's weird. That's way too weird. Which it was. I don't think I even have to unpack how weird that is and what a huge red flag that is. It is obviously very, very bizarre. In any event, Mohammad ended up agreeing to do the marriage counseling. And then afterward, the wedding went fine. There were about 350 guests, which was actually considered small to Elana's family, but Elana was fine with this. And she told her family, quote, that a small wedding hides an ugly bride. And that statement just absolutely breaks my heart. If there's one day that you should feel absolutely beautiful and special, it's your wedding day. But her insecurity was so deeply rooted that she couldn't even feel good about herself on this one day. After the wedding, Elana and Mohammad bought a house and Elana started her residency program at Ottawa Hospital. He was also doing a residency at the same hospital. He was studying neurosurgery, but Elana was studying family medicine. In January of 2005, their daughter ended up being born, and they named her Jasmine. And as I'm sure you know where this is going, it's a tale as old as time. Adding a new baby to an already dysfunctional relationship did not solve any of their issues. All of the stress, the lack of sleep, it just all got worse. And Mohammad acted like he didn't even care about his daughter. It was kind of like how he had acted the whole time he dated Elana. He never took her feelings or her goals seriously, and now he wasn't taking Jasmine's need for a loving, involved parent seriously either. He liked the idea of having a wife and a baby, but he never paid any attention to Jasmine, and he never helped Elana take care of her. Instead, he always left for work very early in the morning, and when he would get back home, he would just head straight to his office without even pausing to say hi to Elana or give her a kiss or say hi to their daughter. He would just close the door and he would ignore his family for the entire rest of the night. And as if that wasn't bad enough, he also held Elana to these insanely high expectations. Like, this guy couldn't be bothered to lift a finger, to get a little bottle ready, change a diaper, nothing. But God forbid that Elana ever did something slightly less than perfect. Mohammad didn't cook, but if Elana made something for dinner that he didn't like, he would say that it was shit, and he would push it away, refusing to eat. And he was always mocking Elana's weight too, which, keep in mind, she literally just gave birth. Your body doesn't snap back right how it used to be right away. It takes a long, long time, if it ever even does get back. But he kept telling Elana to her face that she was a fat bitch and a cow. He also said that she needed to work out more to lose the weight, and that if she didn't, it was because she was lazy. And Elana was a naturally very small person, even after giving birth. She didn't gain that much weight after her pregnancy. Not that it would matter if she did. I mean, when you're pregnant, it's normal and healthy to put on pounds. I think when I was pregnant with my son, I went from 130 to 175. So I can't do the math. What is that? Like 45 pounds? I mean, you put on some weight. The goal is to give the baby a very safe environment to thrive, not to meet some arbitrary standard about how skinny you think that you're supposed to be. But Mohammad just did not care, which is disgusting in and of itself, but also layer in the fact that at that point, after you experience childbirth, your hormones are all over the place, your mental state is all over the place. All you need is like a supportive partner, not somebody who is belittling you, making you feel gross, making you feel disgusting. It's truly appalling. And it didn't stop there. Mohammed's bad temper grew worse after the baby was born. Everything bothered him, and he would scream at Elana for the smallest things. He was just angry about everything all the time. Then, not long after Jasmine was born, Elana's parents, Anna and Joe, got a really strange phone call from Mohammad. He was freaking out, just yelling at them about how Elana was going to divorce him and how they needed to convince her not to. I mean, he was going on and on, not making much sense at all in this call. So eventually, Elana took the phone from him, yanked it from him and told her parents that it wasn't true. They were fine. They had nothing to worry about. And then she hung up the phone. But then a few weeks later, her parents saw that they missed another call from Elana. So they called her back right away. Somebody answered, but they didn't say anything. All they could hear in the back was Mohammad screaming, saying, "You bitch, you stupid bitch." They never figured out exactly what happened between Elana and Mohammad that time, but I mean, the phone call was very disturbing, to say the least. Another time after Jasmine was born, Mohammed's family came to Ottawa to visit them and to meet the baby for the first time. When they arrived, they knocked on the door. Elana was upstairs breastfeeding the baby, so Mohammad answered the door. And when Elana came downstairs, Mohammad started chewing her out in front of his entire family. He yelled at her that it was her job to greet guests and welcome them into their home, not his. Elana then told him in front of his parents that she felt like she had to walk on eggshells around him, which, good for her, standing up for herself. But at the end of the day, I mean, Mohammad still got what he wanted most of the time, and he expected Elana to give up her own needs for him. In the spring of 2005, Mohammad got accepted into a biomedical engineering PhD program at Duke University in Durham, North Carolina. So the family planned their move from Canada all the way over to the United States. But then, that May, before they actually even moved, Mohammad and Elana got into a huge fight. Mohammad hit Elana, splitting her lip and leaving her with some other visual injuries on her face. He also screamed that he was going to kill her and little Jasmine. Elana ran off to a friend's house with Jasmine and stayed there for a few days, and then Mohammad called Elana nonstop, begging her to come home, but she refused to unless he was out of the house. So eventually he agreed to go live with his family and he left. When Elana went back home, she had a friend stay with her and, quote, stand guard because, she was worried that Mohammad was lying about being somewhere else. She thought that he might come back while she was there, but thankfully he didn't show up. Now, it's not entirely clear what happened after that. I do know that Jasmine's baptism was a few months after that, and Mohammad didn't show up for it, which didn't really mean a whole lot. Remember, Mohammad also blew off Elana's graduation. He didn't want to go to pre-marriage counseling. He wasn't father or husband of the year by any means. It was very much in character for him to skip his daughter's baptism, even if he was still in the picture. But a bunch of people asked Elana where her husband was, and she told a couple of different stories. With some people, she said that Mohammad had to work. Nothing dramatic, nothing crazy like that. But then with a few people, I'm guessing she probably only told this to really close friends and family members that she trusted, Elana admitted that she and Mohammad had been separated for months. He was also facing 3 criminal charges from the fight. 2 were for threatening bodily harm, and 1 for assault. Mohammad was potentially going to jail. Except in July of 2005, Elana ended up dropping all of the charges, because just like all of those times before, Mohammad begged Elana to stay with him and promised that he would change. And Elana desperately wanted things to work out between them, not just because she still had feelings for him, but also because they just had a baby together, and she wanted to find a way to make their family work. She wanted to be a nuclear family. Elana's friends and families begged her not to go back to Mohammad, but she didn't listen. Which was really weird because some people thought that Elana was only sticking with him for the sake of appearances. Like she was worried about how it would look to get a divorce, whereas apparently staying in the marriage and being a wife and a mother was going to somehow help her reputation. The opposite was true. Everyone knew Mohammad was bad news, and Elana could do better than him. Everybody knew it. Nobody was going to think less of her for leaving a bad situation and for saying that she deserved respect and love and safety. But apparently she didn't get that. She didn't understand it. It's also possible that Elana was feeling a little bit guilty because Mohammad kept telling her that if he was convicted for the assault charges, he might lose his whole career, and that would be her fault. Basically ignoring the fact that he was the one who had decided to hurt her, not taking accountability, not realizing he was the one who caused his own behavior. No, that'd be too easy. Mohammad wanted Elana to think that the natural consequences of his own behavior were all her fault. So anyway, Mohammad didn't have to go to trial, but he also didn't get off the hook completely. He had to be put on probation for 12 months, and he couldn't own any weapons, and he had to go to therapy. And usually, you can't leave the country while you're on probation. However, the judge made an exception so that Mohammad could still do his PhD program at Duke. So he moved to Durham a few months before Elana, which was actually good because it gave them more time to be apart, to just cool down a little bit, gather their thoughts. And then eventually, Elana and Jasmine joined Mohammad in Durham. While they were there, Elana ended up applying to Duke as well, and she was accepted. She even got a rare scholarship that covered half of her tuition. So both Mohammad and Elana were fantastic students, just like always, and they were both at the top of their classes. Mohammad ended up finishing a 5-year program in just 3.5 years. Their life had settled down a little bit. They found a routine, they stuck to it, and it made the days easier. They would wake up and they would go for an early morning run together, then Elana would bring Jasmine to daycare, then they'd both go to school. Elana would pick up Jasmine, cook dinner, and then they would just do it all over again the very next day. And in 2007, Elana got pregnant for the 2nd time. So in November, she gave birth to another daughter, and they named her Fauzi. And do you think that Mohammad started helping out more now that they had 2 children? If you're thinking yes, I'm going to tell you right now the answer is nope. Elana literally did everything. She cleaned the house, she did the grocery shopping, the cooking, did all the laundry, put together any new furniture that they bought. Literally everything. And this was all on top of her job and her classes. And get this, she was even Mohammad's personal chauffeur because he refused to drive himself around. Friends asked Elana why she did it, and she said that it was just because he didn't like driving. And he still showed her no gratitude whatsoever. He kept criticizing her constantly, telling Elana she was a terrible parent, she was setting a bad example for their kids, she needed to be better. Everything was always her fault, and he never took any accountability. He told her all of the time that he would be better off without her, which is ironic given how many times she tried to leave him and he begged her to stay and not leave in return. Mohammad did what he wanted when he wanted, but Elana had to ask for permission for everything, even if she wanted to buy something basic like groceries or a subscription to the local newspaper. She wasn't even allowed to have her own bank account. Mohammad controlled their shared checking and savings accounts. Plus, he had multiple personal bank accounts that he was constantly funneling money into without ever telling Elana. And the few times that Elana would actually get to go out with her friends, she had to get permission first. Then, even if he said it was okay for her to hang out with other people, he would be calling her nonstop until she came back home. Who was she going with? Where were they going? How long would they be out? He expected her to update him about her every single move. Elana spent most of her time talking about how great Mohammad was and how she didn't deserve him, but it came across more like she was trying to convince herself because she is definitely not convincing her friends. As hard as Elana worked to maintain this image that she was happy and her family was perfect and everything was so wonderful, sometimes her coworkers would find her crying in the break room, talking about how her relationship wasn't as great as people thought that it was. But none of this was apparently ever enough for her to leave him. Eventually, both Mohammad and Elana graduated from Duke. They moved back to Ottawa in 2009. Elana started her own family medicine practice, and Mohammad was a neurosurgeon at Ottawa Hospital. And surprisingly, Mohammad was actually known for his bedside manner and for how patient and kind he was. I mean, the irony in all of it. Elana was also known for being sweet and kind, and her practice became very popular. She was one of the most sought-after family doctors in the area. Now, this might have made her feel even more pressure to keep up appearances because their social media accounts were full of pictures that made them look like just the most supportive, successful, and loving couple. They posted pictures of seemingly everything, smiling and kissing on date night, training for marathons, running through the sand dunes in Dubai, family vacations. I mean, you name it, it was posted. And this was all Mohammad's doing because he was very image-focused. Even on Elana's accounts, he chose the pictures that she would post. He would choose the captions that she would write, literally everything. She finally got some relief in 2011, which was when Mohammad received an opportunity to study spinal surgery in Calgary. And Calgary was all the way on the other side of Canada, and the program lasted for 2 years. So he moved there for his studies while Elana stayed home with the kids. And in a way, the separation was actually pretty nice. Elana didn't have someone constantly looking over her shoulder and watching her every move. She had a little bit of breathing room. Mohammad still tried to track her every move and was calling her constantly, but it was harder for him to do anything to her when it was a 35-hour drive away. So you would think that because of this, Mohammad would eventually decide that he had a problem with Elana being out from underneath his thumb. But actually, it was Elana now who started to feel suspicious of him. He started being more distant than usual, and Elana was worried that he was having another affair. She eventually hacked into Mohammad's email and bank accounts, and that's where she found multiple emails between Mohammad and another woman. It was obvious that they were together, and she found transactions on the bank statements that were all from their dates, their secret dates. Mohammad had even paid the entry fees so that he and his girlfriend could run a race on Mother's Day together. Mother's Day! Elana was home alone with the kids all morning, actually being a mother, while Mohammad was out having fun with his side piece and footing the bill. So Elana confronted Mohammad about the affair, but he denied everything. He said he couldn't even believe that she was accusing him of something like that. But Elana kept pressing the issue, and she demanded answers until he finally confessed. But what do you think Mohammad did after that? He begged Elana to stay with him, just like he always did. He claimed once again that he would change, that he would be a better person. And again, Elana's friends and family tried to get her to leave Mohammad once and for all. But Elana couldn't even imagine a life without him. She said it was too late. She had already been with him for so long, almost 10 years at this point. She had 2 kids with him. She had invested too much into the relationship, too much to walk away now. She said she really loved Mohammad and she just wanted him to love her back. Now we know that statistically it usually takes 7 to 8 times for somebody to leave a relationship if they're in any sort of abusive relationship. Now, and although this relationship only appeared to have been physical once that we know of, Certainly, it was mentally abusive, emotionally abusive, and at that point, you can almost become not Stockholm syndrome, but brainwashed to staying with this person. It's almost like you keep allowing the threshold of what you're willing to accept to be pushed further and further out. Whereas one point you might think, oh, I'm going to leave when this ever happens, but then you stay. So then it's like, okay, well, whenever this happens, and then that boundary just keeps getting pushed further and further until you're 10 years in and you're like, now there's nothing else for me to do. You don't feel like there's any escape from it. And for whatever reason, I mean, it was clear that she had some insecurities as well that Mohammad preyed on. She felt like this was the best that she could do, thought that Mohammad was smart, that he made her look better. She also had just become so used to this that she just started to brush things off, which again is just very typical in these types of relationships. So they stayed together. But even though Mohammad was the one who was in the wrong, I mean, he was the one who had the affair, he gave Elana a bunch of rules that she had to follow. She had to be a better mother. She had to move to Toronto after he was done with his program in Calgary. She had to do everything, cater to him. And this was because he had already decided to take a job there at Toronto Western Hospital after his program ended. It was all his decision making. Now, I don't know what Mohammad meant by Elana having to be a better mother and all of that. I mean, she already did everything while he just sat there and was barely even a parent himself. He hardly ever interacted with his own kids except to take pictures of them for social media. But Elana agreed to the conditions, and the family moved to Toronto. And Elana had to leave her thriving family medical practice all behind. But as always, Mohammad got what Mohammad wanted. He came to be known at Toronto Western Hospital as a miracle worker, and he performed very complex surgeries that many other surgeons refused to do. People who thought that their health problems were untreatable would go to Mohammad, and he would be the one to fix them. So this only boosted his reputation even more, and of course, he was making tons of money. He and Elana bought a huge $1.5 million home, and it was actually a little too big for them. There was a spare bedroom that they weren't even using. And what's crazy is to Mohammad, this meant that they should have another kid. So he told Elana that a baby would be a good way to fix their relationship problems, which, what on earth are you thinking? A baby will never solve the problems ever. It is not the Band-Aid you are looking for. But he thought that it was. He told her that it was. Plus, he really wanted to have a son. He barely paid any attention to his daughter, so honestly, another kid would kind of just be one more thing for Elana to take care of in all of this. And frankly, this sounded like a terrible deal for Elana, but by this point, she was just so used to doing whatever Mohammad told her to do. So she agreed. She got pregnant again pretty soon afterward, and they had their baby boy, a little boy named Marius, in October of 2013. But then, Elana's life became even more hectic. On top of the baby, she had a new job at an urgent care clinic close to the house. I mean, most days she just dealt with minor issues like kids with coughs or snotty noses. And she told a friend, I went through all of this school, and I don't want to just treat sore throats. She wanted something more. But she tried to make the best of her situation. She and Mohammad continued to train for marathons together, and they also picked up jiu-jitsu. Elana got into yoga, they went on lavish vacations, and the kids were doing really well in school. But unfortunately, Mohammad was just as controlling over the kids as he had been with Elana. He told them who they could and could not be friends with, and he was very focused on class and status, and he didn't want his children associating with people who he considered beneath them. Then in 2015, Elana got a new job in the family medicine unit at Scarborough Hospital. She was so happy to be working in family medicine again. She also became an assistant professor of medicine at the University of Toronto. She even got invited to the Ontario Medical Association, also known as the OMA, and was part of the Health Policy Committee. The OMA is a voluntary membership group for physicians in Ontario, and it's a place for physicians to network, share ideas, and advocate for the best interests of physicians in Ontario. And this wasn't Elana's full-time job, just something that she really enjoyed doing in her free time. So it of course didn't take long for her to move into a leadership position, and she pushed for policies that helped women, helped the underprivileged, and even helped refugees. But the more successful that Elana was, the worse Mohammad acted. Their relationship had been up and down from the very beginning, but it got way, way worse in 2016. At the beginning of that year, Elana started feeling suspicious again that Mohammad was still seeing the woman that he had cheated on her with back in 2011. She couldn't put her finger on why she thought that, but something seemed off. So during a road trip to Vermont, Elana brought up the affair to Mohammad. Not her suspicions that there was one going on now, but she just reminded him that it had happened a few years ago. And just that, just mentioning it sent Mohammad into a rage. He started choking her, and he started telling Elana she's a much better lover than you. On that same trip, Elana's parents also got a call from Mohammad where he said that Elana was having surgery on her hand. He said that she slammed a glass down on the table and it broke and cut her hand. But when Elana told one of her friends what had happened, she said that she cut herself while she was washing dishes. Then she told another friend that she had cut herself while she was chopping vegetables. So, covering all of this up. And we've seen it. Unfortunately, we've seen it. It's a heartbreaking pattern, right? She did eventually admit that Mohammad had choked her on the trip, and people asked her why she didn't call the police. She said that she was worried about what Americans would do to a man named Mohammad. So from that point onward, this really just became a routine. Elana would show up at work with some sort of injury like a bruise or a cut, and she would explain how she got it. Her story would change from person to person to person, and it was very clear what was going on. Eventually, her closest friends and family members learned that not only was Mohammad harming Elana physically, mentally, and emotionally, but he started harming her sexually as well. He forced Elana to have sex with him whenever he wanted it. She didn't really have a choice, and she was worried about what he would do if she ever told him no. This was alarming. It was frightening. But outside of that small inner circle of people who Elana really trusted, most people still didn't know that anything was wrong between Elana and Mohammad. They were still posting these happy pictures on social media. They looked so in love, so perfect, especially in July of 2016, when Mohammad and Elana got to spend a whole month together focusing on their relationship. Mohammad took all of that time off work, while Elana's parents took care of the baby and their older girls went to summer camp. A couple of months later, they celebrated their 12-year anniversary, and Mohammad and Elana exchanged cards, but they didn't go all out with gifts or anything. But it was kind of just the same old, same old. It was happy pictures on social media, lies, suspicion behind the scenes. Elana told her friends that she still thought that Mohammad was cheating on her. They told her to divorce him, but she said she couldn't. Specifically, she said, quote, "If I apply for divorce, he will try to destroy me." She also told them that if something ever happened to her, they would know who did it. Now, since Elana said that divorce wasn't an option, one of her friends joked that Elana should just have an affair for herself, which kind of sounds like weird advice, but there's also some logic to it a little bit. I mean, if your partner's not going to be loyal, and if you're not going to leave them over it, your only other option is to either learn how to cope with it and be okay with the constant cheating, or go out and cheat on yourself. And I guess Elana figured that she could live with Mohammed's affairs if she started seeing somebody too. So she started sleeping with a guy that she worked with. He was married too, which doesn't sound like a great situation. But as it turned out, the affair was good for Elana. She really liked her boyfriend, and relationships work so much better when you are with someone who treats you like your feelings actually matter. So because of this, it made her realize that she could live without Mohammad, and that everything would be okay. Her life didn't have to be so miserable. It finally gave her confidence and hope. For the first time ever, Elana started seriously thinking about divorce. She even met with a lawyer. She told Mohammad that she wanted to split, and he lost his mind. He flipped out. He begged her to stay with him, just like always. He said he just needed a little bit more time to learn how to be a better husband, as if he hadn't already had 12 years to figure it out. But once again, Elana agreed to give him another shot. Again. And surprise, surprise, Mohammad didn't get any better. Elana was miserable, and she posted anonymously on a Facebook group for Physicians for Mom. In this post, she said, "I'm living each day as though it's normal, but I'm dead inside. My husband is better connected than I. He is adored by all and makes much more money. I'm feeling so many things right now: anger, sadness, shame, most of all embarrassment. I'm embarrassed that I once believed that I was worthy of love in the first place." Then in October of 2016, they had a huge fight, the worst fight they had ever had. Mohammad choked Elana until she lost consciousness. Now, this was an eye-opening experience for Elana because somehow, even after all of the other times that he had hurt her, this time she realized that Mohammad was truly terrible to be with, and she had to get out of this relationship, if not for her, then for her children, because it seemed like it was only a matter of time until he was going to start hurting the children too. Right away, Elana went to the divorce lawyer again. She told the lawyer everything and said this time she wasn't backing down. She wasn't taking Mohammad back. She was done. Even after Mohammad bought her this giant box of chocolates and begged her to stay, she was like, no, I'm done. He's had 12 years. He's out of chances. By that November, Elana even started opening up to her friends and family about the divorce, and everyone was relieved. Everybody was happy about the fact that she was openly talking about things. This felt like a very good sign. It was like she realized now that there's nothing shameful about ending a marriage. And as all of this was unfolding, she got to take a break from her soon-to-be ex-husband one weekend that month, specifically from November 25th to the 27th, which was when Elana attended an OMA conference. She spoke on panels, gave presentations, networked, and overall just had a really great time. She was constantly tweeting about the conference and how much fun she was having. And Mohammad was tweeting as well. He was acting like a supportive husband because for him, he just had to maintain that image. The good news was that Elana wasn't playing that game anymore. Even during the conference with all of these work colleagues, she talked openly about how her marriage was ending. But she wasn't sad about it. She said it was going to be a fresh start for her. She was looking forward to it. The conference ended on Sunday and Elana went home. That same night, Elana told her closest family and friends that she was going to be serving Mohammad with the divorce papers the very next day. Elana's mom told her, be very careful. She worried that Mohammad would react poorly and hurt Elana. She even said that she could drive to Toronto and be there to protect Elana, but Elana said it wasn't necessary. So the next day, Elana did what she had said she would do. She officially served Mohammad with divorce papers. The divorce now felt more official, and Elana needed space from Mohammad, so she ended up moving into the basement during all of this. Now, her lawyer wasn't too happy about this. He really wanted Elana out of the house completely, but Elana thought that that was unnecessary. She said that Mohammad wouldn't do anything to ruin his reputation or ruin his career, and at the end of the day, that's all he really cared about anyway, right? Now, of course, even if that was true, that Mohammad didn't want to do anything that might reflect badly on him in public, we know that he could still try to do things behind closed doors. So Mohammad kept taking Elana's stuff and bringing it back upstairs, and Elana kept bringing everything back down to the basement. And I can't even imagine what he thought he was trying to accomplish. Maybe he was just in denial and being like, nope, we're moving it back up. Nope, it's downstairs. Nope, we're moving it back up, until she gave up and gave in and just said, fine, I'm throwing in the towel. I don't know. Elana emailed her lawyer and said Mohammad wasn't being violent, but that he was having a hard time accepting things. And every day, Elana's mom called in to check in on her to make sure that everything was okay. And then on Wednesday, November 30th, she was on the phone with Elana while Elana was giving the baby a bath. All of a sudden, she said she had to get off the phone, though, right away. So her mom told Elana, be careful, and they hung up. The next morning, her mom tried calling Elana. She felt very uneasy about how their conversation had ended the night before. But Elana didn't answer. So her mom tried calling and texting over and over and over again. But Elana never responded. Eventually, her mom called Mohammad, and apparently he had found out about the affair that Elana was having. He said that Elana had left him to go be with her new boyfriend. She just packed up a suitcase, got in the car in the middle of the night, and she left the kids with Mohammad. Took off. But her mom knew that this wasn't true. Elana would never leave her kids. She especially wouldn't leave them alone with their good-for-nothing violent father. So thankfully, her mom knew one of Elana's neighbors. So she called her and she asked her to go look into their garage and see if Elana's car was still there. The neighbor did, and they said that Elana's car was still in the garage. Plus, the neighbor also said that they had heard screaming coming from the house the night before. This information, plus the fact that her mom couldn't reach her daughter, of course made her reeling with worry. She was panicked, full-blown panicked. She called the police and she reported Elana as missing. She told them a little bit about Mohammad and Elana's relationship, and she said that she was worried that Mohammad might have done something to her. So that same day, on December 1st, the police went to Elana and Mohammad's home. Mohammad initially refused to talk to the police, and he was actually very angry that they were even there. They asked where Elana was and told him that it would look suspicious if he didn't talk to them, if he didn't cooperate. So he eventually said that Elana had left the night before with her new boyfriend, the same thing that he told her mom. He said he'd been trying to contact her all day, but she wouldn't respond to any of his messages. So he gave the police the name of Elana's boyfriend, and then they left. So then the police went over to this boyfriend's house, and they wanted to question him. I don't know his name, but I do know that he was hesitant to talk to them at first. That is, of course, until the detectives told him that Mohammad was blaming him for Elana's disappearance. If he didn't talk, he was going to be the #1 suspect in her missing persons case. So that's when he opened up and said, that he hadn't seen Elana at all the previous night. He even had an alibi to prove that he wasn't with Elana. He was with his wife the entire night, and she vouched for him. Now, meanwhile, Mohammad made the kids breakfast, he brought them to school, and then he went to work. Like nothing ever happened. He even performed a few surgeries. Elana's parents were a lot more worried than he was, so they rushed to Toronto and they arrived there in the early morning hours of December 2nd. And they had a key to the house, so they let themselves in. Her mom started busying herself by cleaning up, washing the dishes, and making the kids breakfast. Eventually, Mohammad came in and made some comment like, "Oh, so you're the ones who called the police?" I mean, he acted like he didn't even care that Elana was missing. And that's about the time that the police called her parents and told them they needed to come down to the station because they thought that they found Elana's body. See, that day, a Toronto fireman was walking his dog along a trail near the Humber River. He saw a suitcase just a little bit off the trail, and something seemed off about it. He called the police, and they, of course, rushed over to the scene. And when they opened the suitcase, they found the body of a very, very badly beaten woman. Her injuries were bad enough that her face was pretty unrecognizable. But the suitcase had a tag on it. It had Elana's name and her address. When her parents got there to look at the body and identify it, when they saw her body, they were horrified. Elana's face was completely unrecognizable, and all of her blonde hair had been chopped off. Initially, her mom refused to even admit that the body was Elana. It was too hard to believe that her daughter had been through something so incredibly horrific. But her dad, Joe, knew that it was Elana right away. And eventually, her mom agreed and said that it was her too. Once the police confirmed that the body was Elana's, they felt like they were already in a position to solve the murder. They already knew about the issues in Elana and Mohammad's marriage. They knew about the divorce. They knew that Mohammad had been violent with Elana before. Plus, their oldest child, Jasmine, came forward with some key information as well. She said that in the middle of the night on December 1st, she woke up to the sound of her parents arguing. Now, this wasn't too unusual. Jasmine was used to her parents fighting all of the time, apparently. But then she heard a loud bang. She heard her mother scream, and then she heard complete silence. She waited to see if her parents would start talking again, but she heard nothing. So she walked to her parents' room, and she opened the door, and she asked what was going on. She found her dad leaning over and looking at something next to the bed. Now, from where she was standing, Jasmine couldn't tell what he was looking at. Jasmine asked her dad what had happened, and he whipped his head around and looked panicked, and he just yelled at Jasmine to go back to her room. So she did, but something still didn't feel right. She heard her dad moving around in their closet like he was trying to find something, and coincidentally, this was the same closet that they kept their luggage in. So Jasmine went back to her parents' room, and this time she saw her dad walking out of their walk-in closet. She asked where Mom was, and Mohammad said that she went for a walk. He once again told Jasmine, go back to your room, go back to bed, which she listened, she did. But Jasmine told the police that this didn't make any sense because she didn't hear anybody walk down the stairs, and she also didn't hear any doors open. Plus, it was really late at night. Why would her mom go on a walk by herself at that time of night? Jasmine said she woke up the next morning and she expected to see her mom, but she wasn't there. Mohammad told her that their mom had left. But Jasmine knew that this could not be true. She knew her mom, and she knew that she would never just leave without saying goodbye. So this information was enough for the police to want to arrest Mohammad. But they had to act fast because they were worried that he was going to flee. So right away they started tailing him, beginning on December 2nd. They found out that his brother was on his way from Boston to see Mohammad, and Mohammad was meeting some other man, possibly a lawyer, at a local coffee shop. And this made police even more confident that Mohammad was planning to flee, possibly back to Boston with his brother. So they moved quickly to arrest him. 2 officers went to the coffee shop where he was supposed to meet somebody, and they ended up getting there before he did. As soon as he set foot through the door, they slapped handcuffs on him, and he was charged with first-degree murder. But at the station, Mohammad would not talk. He sat in the interview room for 90 minutes without uttering a single word. His face was completely expressionless. The police even tried showing him a picture of Elana's badly beaten face and asked him, why would you do something like this? Why would you ever do this? They figured that he would have some kind of reaction, but he gave them nothing. Now, since they thought that he was a flight risk, the police denied Mohammad any bond. He just had to sit in a jail cell and wait while they waited on the results of Elana's autopsy and gathered more evidence against him. The investigators discovered that after Elana talked to her mom on Wednesday night while she was giving the baby a bath, she made one other call. She had dialed 611. The police thought that Elana and Mohammad were fighting and that she tried to call 911 but hit the wrong button during the struggle. They also pulled Mohammad's cell phone records and found that in the early morning hours of December 1st, Mohammad drove up and down a bunch of back roads in Toronto, places he never typically went. His phone also showed that he drove to the Humber River, not too far from where Elana's body was found. He stopped for a short while, and then he drove home. Then the next day, Mohammad sent numerous text messages to Elana asking where she was, what she's doing, what happened. One text said, "Good morning, not sure where you are. I guess I will get the kids ready and take them to school. Please call." So clearly he was trying to make it look like Elana really did just leave and that he had nothing to do with it, and he had no idea where she had gone. Now, of course, in light of basically every other piece of evidence the police had, they were not buying it. When the medical examiner finally released the autopsy results, they said that Elana's neck and ribs were all broken. She had been severely beaten with a blunt force object, and then she was strangled to death. The suitcase that she was found in was also pretty small, and when she was shoved inside of it, some of her bones got broken because of it. In spite of all of this, Mohammad pleaded not guilty. He and his legal team spent the next couple of years filing motion after motion, trying to get his trial delayed, which did work for a while, and it also cost Mohammad a lot of money. Elana's parents figured that Mohammad was doing this all on purpose, like he was blowing all of this cash so that he wouldn't have to pay any child support to Elana's mom and dad, who were now raising all three of his children. Mohammad had a bank account that was supposed to be for the kids, but it only had 1 penny in it. They also found that Elana's personal bank account only had around $230 in it, even though she was a doctor who was making quite a lot of money. Mohammad had spent all the rest of it. Which we already knew that he was a really bad, crappy father who wasn't involved with his kids at all, but it's one thing to be lazy and uninvolved when you know someone else is still taking care of your children, but to now screw your children over out of spite when they didn't even do anything? I mean, why did this man even have children in the first place? It makes absolutely no sense. And his children weren't the only ones who were having to pay the price. Mohammad's father was suspended from his job as a physician at Ottawa Hospital, the same hospital where Elana and Mohammad used to work. But it's not like he was just being targeted because of who his son was. Apparently, he had made some pretty gross jokes about domestic violence, which made his coworkers very uncomfortable. The jokes specifically mentioned a wife who was murdered by her husband, which would be an out-of-line thing to say in any circumstance, but in light of what his son had just done, it seemed really revealing about what kind of person Mohammad's father was, and also what sort of environment Mohammad probably grew up in. Finally, in April of 2019, Mohammad agreed to a plea deal. He pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, not first-degree. He said that he killed Elana, but he did not do it on purpose. At his sentencing, Mohammad read a statement which said, "Somehow I turned my back on my oath and calling, and I took a life, Elana's life. It makes no sense to me. I don't know how I could cause such pain and anguish. I should have killed myself and not Elana. That would have been the only justice. Mine was the ultimate betrayal to a woman who gave so much to so many people, especially me. There have been no justifications or excuses for what I have done that has hurt so many people. There were signs early on that I was not a good partner or a good husband. I am surprised our marriage did not end sooner." Which, let me just say how absolutely bonkers ridiculous this apology is. How does he not know how much pain he has caused when he has been a terrible person for over a decade? If you have to beg your partner to come back to you time and time again because of your actions, you're probably a horrible person. That's probably a good place to start, my friend. So Mohammad was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 14 years. Elana's family was fine with it. The deal meant that Jasmine didn't have to testify against her father during the trial, which of course would have just been very, very tough for her.
In this tragic story, she is the most haunting figure. A young girl who heard her mother die, who had to face the killer, her own father, in court.
Do you want to keep your jacket on?
Jasmine and her grandmother Elana Fric say talking about the horror is helping them heal.
These last couple of days must have been really emotional. Tell me how you're feeling now that it's over.
I feel a relief that we don't have to go through this no more, that this is over, that we can close our book and look forward for our life with the children.
How about you?
Same thing. I'm just relieved that I don't have to do this anymore.
Jasmine had to testify at a preliminary inquiry about the night she woke to her mother screaming, to find her father wide-eyed and panicked. But it wasn't until he pled guilty that she could exhale, knowing that meant no trial.
So how do you feel that you don't have to go through that?
Relieved and happy.
Yeah. Were you anxious about it?
Yeah, I felt like I would have had an emotional breakdown if I had to go on the witnesses stand.
The decision to do this interview came after discussions with her counselor and her grandparents, who are now her guardians, as well as the family's lawyer.
I've had the chance to talk about my mom, but I haven't had the chance to talk about it and have it, like, you know, I don't know the word.
Publicized?
But like, yeah,
Public?
that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And why was that important?
I guess just so that people would know who she was, how she was really cheerful, even though she was dealing with so much.
Off limits were any questions about that awful night. But the horror of how Elana Fric died, how Shamji struck her several times and strangled her, played out in court.
Those details, listening to them again, must have been very difficult.
You know, it was difficult for me because I didn't know before what he did to her, all the stuff, and I just broke down. How much pain she's endured before she was gone. You know.
I didn't exactly like hearing what they were saying. So I guess again I just blocked it out of my mind and tried not to think about it.
Did you want to be in the courtroom?
I had some questions that needed to be answered, so I decided to stay.
What questions did you have?
Just how it had happened. I was confused, I guess. So I really needed to know.
Court heard Elana Fric endured years of abuse. Jasmine witnessed some of it. So did her grandmother.
I know she hid a lot of stuff from me, and she loved him. And she hoped maybe someday that he might change, he will be better. But he never changed. It breaks my heart. I felt helpless.
You were aware of what she was going through, right? That must have been really hard.
Yeah, it was.
Did you ever try to talk to her about it, or?
She initiated conversations about it sometimes. She had asked me, like, a few times if I'd want to live a life without, you know, him.
Fric's decision to leave was likely the trigger. Shamji killed her days after she told him she planned to.
Your dad, your former son-in-law, apologized to you in court. What do you think of that apology?
I don't think much. His apology was only for himself, because from the day one he knew what he did, and also I knew that he did it. So did the children.
What did you think, Jasmine, of the apology?
Sorry, I'm just thinking about how I felt.
It's okay, take your time.
Yeah, take time.
I guess it felt weird to, like, look him in the eye and hear him actually address me, because I haven't spoken to him face to face in like 2.5 years, so it was kind of scary. I didn't really like it, so I was happy when he got it over with.
If you had a chance to talk to him, do you have any questions for him?
I would be uncomfortable. I wouldn't really know what to say, and I just don't want to see him again.
The judge has ordered Shamji have no contact with his children while in custody. Before he was let off in handcuffs, Elana Fric demanded he look at them.
I did it just to see him, what he's gonna miss in for all those years that he's gonna be locked. Let them see, and I hope he felt the pain in his heart and soul, what he did and what he is gonna miss, these children.
But even though she didn't get called to the stand, Jasmine did eventually speak out about her experience. She grew up thinking that it was normal for parents to fight constantly. But when she went to school and found her friends talking about their happy families, she realized that it wasn't normal, not at all. She had always been especially close to her mom, basically a little mini-me, and without Elana, she had a huge hole in her life now. So now she wants to grow up and become a prosecutor, one who helps victims in domestic altercations. In the meantime, Elana's story has already been helping people because it has gotten a lot of attention in the media. It showed that domestic altercations can happen to anyone, even people who are successful, wealthy, and who seem happy from the outside. In fact, Mohammad and Elana did such a good job of making it seem like their lives were happy and perfect that it even affected the way that their story was told in the news. There were all of these stories about how sad it was that Mohammad wasn't practicing medicine anymore and how sad his patients were, as though that was the big tragedy here, as opposed to, I don't know, maybe Elana's murder?
Police remain on the scene in a North York neighborhood today as part of their investigation into a shocking murder. Dr. Mohammad Shamji faces a first-degree murder charge. Today, police canvassed homes in the Shepherd and Bathurst area where the accused lived. Tonight, some families who have worked with Shamji are speaking out. They say they rely on his knowledge to treat a rare disorder and have been left reeling by his arrest.
It's a devastating loss to the entire EDS community. This is a setback right now on a global basis.
A devastating blow to the medical community after a respected Toronto neurosurgeon is arrested and charged with first-degree murder. I'm Nicole Martin. Tonight, we take a look at how the patients of Dr. Mohammad Shamji, who are living with a rare disorder called EDS, are being affected. They say he is the only doctor in Canada who can help them.
At the end of the day, that's the big risk when you're so focused on appearances. It makes it all too easy to focus on the good stuff that's superficial, and to really miss the warning signs until it's too late. And these are the exact kind of cases that we say are so important to talk about and continue talking about, because aside from just letting a victim's voice carry on and hold people accountable, something that is so important to me, and I know so many of you who watch, it's whatever education element we can get from these cases. And in this case particularly, there is so much educational value. Signs to look for, how you should be treated. Her daughter Jasmine not even knowing what a happy home or happy marriage looks like, what that is supposed to look like, how to get out, what to look for with signs with your friends, your families, before it's too late, leaving that paper trail. So not only is it beneficial to hear Elana's case, to make sure that her voice is heard and it continues carrying on and that this slime ball is named for who he is, but also to hopefully raise awareness and educate people who maybe unfortunately are currently in a similar situation or will find themselves to be in a similar situation in the future, or maybe adjacent. You have a friend or a family member who's in one. So I just really appreciate you guys watching today's episode, watching it all the way through, and realizing that this is the goal. This is the purpose of this channel, to talk about stories like these and continue generating awareness. So thank you for hearing Elana's story today. If you don't want to miss any other episodes in the future, make sure to take a quick second, hit the subscribe button. It's totally free. It'll just make sure that next time you log into YouTube, you see any new cases that we have posted. All right, guys, thanks again. And until the next one, stay safe.